Monday morning, time to take a look at business matters on this freezing cold day. I believe that today is officially the beginning of winter. There's a bit of a breeze around, a bit of cloud movement coming in late this afternoon, and from tomorrow onwards, we're going to be like this. We fortunately have some very, very silent, very, very sophisticated air conditioners in the studio. So this is nice and toasty and warm. So hopefully you are as well where you are. Hopefully Chris Gibbons is where he is. He's in a toasty, warm Europe for a little bit of their summer. And he'll be back with us in about 3 weeks' time. In the meantime, business journalist Chris Buchanan joins us as usual when Chris Gibbons is away. The other Chris joins us. Chris Buchanan, nice to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Jeremy.
Okay, right. You froze there a little bit. You must get the air conditioners installed there as well, because it looked like you were going to be frozen. I'm not going to go any further because I know it would be a slur on your good self. Some high-profile arrests, Chris, last week. Gupta Associates and a former Transnet official, eh?
Indeed, Jeremy. The first of the arrests concerned the looting of mental rehabilitation funds at the Optimum maintained coal mines. Gupta Associates Raghavan Avnigav, as well as former Director General in the Department of Mineral Resources, Joel Raffaella. They were arrested and appeared in the Randburg Magistrates Court on charges of fraud and money laundering to the tune of 107.5 million rand. There are a total of 11 counts, and added to fraud and money laundering, forgery and perjury. But that's not all. Former Transnet CEO Siyabonga Gama appeared in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court relating to the acquisition of over 1,000 locomotives. He was released on 50,000 rand bail. 4 other accused appeared alongside Gama, Chief Financial Officer Group Ram Sobodi, Regiment's Eric Wood, and Trillion Asset Management's Daniel Roy. All of the accused mentioned in Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's state capture report. So it looks like the National Prosecuting Authority is starting to act on the report's findings. More high-profile names surely to follow. Anoj Singh and Brian Malefe mentioned heavily in the media.
A lot of talk about industrial action in the as the strike season gets underway, and I see that things are heating up in the Sibanye-Stillwater matter.
It's to do with a haggle between Sibanye-Stillwater and the country's 2 mining unions, AMCU and NUM, currently on a 4-month-long strike, essentially over 200 rand a month. The striking workers want 1,000 rand more, but Sibanye-Stillwater has now extended its offer of 800 rand for 3 years, now offering an increase of 850 in year 4 and 900 in year 6. Added to these figures, a 50 rand increase in the living out allowance. A proposed profit share scheme also rejected. The union's workers have been camped out at the union building since last week, and the impasse has ignited a spat between Minerals and Energy Minister Gwedi Mantashe and Sibanye-Stillwater CEO Neil Froneman. Froneman said the miner could withstand a strike for years, so Mantashe threatened to pull the mining license. He then took further aim at Froneman at the Minerals Council of South Africa, saying mining executives should stop insulting the state. It was in response to Froneman, who penned an article in March on Daily Maverick criticizing the country's leadership and our rapid decline down the table of favorable mining destinations.
Yeah, it's probably not a wise, or it is wise, I beg your pardon, to avoid going down to your local SARS office.
Jeremy, a nationwide strike by the Public Services Union and the National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union at the South African Revenue Services has them advising the public to stay away from their offices and rather interact online. The unions want a 7% increase, but SARS says this is unaffordable despite windfall tax revenue from, guess who? Our mining sector.
Yeah. And in 2 days' time, South Africa are going to see a record price increase in fuel prices.
Well, Jeremy, if you haven't pensioned off your gas guzzler for an e-bike, you might want to do that now. We're looking at an under recovery of about R2.30 a litre for petrol. Added to that, the R1.50 a litre relief that was put in place in March comes to an end this month. That'll push the petrol price past the 25 Rand a litre. And with it, no doubt, huge increases in transport costs and the inevitable knock-on into food prices and bus and taxi fares, putting immense pressure on consumers' pockets. The government hinted at extending the fuel levy, or the fuel levy relief scheme, but there's no announcement as yet. We hold thumbs.
I'm just thinking here, Chris, a R2.30 a litre increase. What's the reason for it?
As always, Jeremy, there are a number of reasons. Thanks to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the oil price has jumped $10 in the last month, and the expectation is we'll see further increases. Then a stronger dollar and local challenges like power cuts and a 5.9% consumer inflation figure have seen the Rand over 16 Rand to the dollar. A bit better last week at around 15.70. It's a perfect storm of factors, all working against a local economic situation that will see continued rises in fuel prices and subsequent increases in inflation.
Yeah, so low interest rate hikes, or interest hikes, I beg your pardon, are going to have to be on the table, surely.
It's the only effective weapon the Reserve Bank has in its armory to combat rampant inflation. But there's a catch. Increasing commodities and fuel prices are outside of the ambit of core inflation, which is too much money in the system, essentially. Increasing interest rates is effective in reducing core inflation, but it's more of a blunt tool when it comes to these external factors. So while upping the interest rate will curb credit demand and spending, it won't stop the charge of the oil price and food commodity prices.
And the world paying tribute to economist Mike Schuster.
Yes, Jeremy, I thought of him as a bit of a Jamie Oliver of economists. Interviewing him many years ago at the SABC, he was the only economist who came into the studio with a ponytail and psychedelic clothing, a far cry from the suits who normally came in to do analysis. I first met Mike when he shared a digs with our old mate Stuart Hollingdrake in Auckland Park. He had a phenomenal rock music record collection, covered an entire wall, and he behaved more like an advertising creative than an economist. Financial journalists remember him as always accessible, with an ability to take a fairly mundane subject like economics and make it interesting and quite cool for the audience. His sense of humor injected a politically incorrect approach to the subject, particularly when it came to government policy and structural potholes in South Africa's economic road. With his passing, every financial journalist now has a huge gap in their economist contact list.
I see the annual World Economic Forum gathering in Davos is back this year.
Back in person, Jeremy, and quite different to past years when it was held in the Swiss resort town in the middle of winter, now in the beginning of summer. So the bitter cold and snow replaced by sunshine and the green Swiss countryside. As always, we ask, so what? And did anything of substance come out of the meeting which ended last week? The answer, not really in terms of any huge impact. There were warnings of a looming global recession caused by interest rate increases, fuel and food price hikes, and the protracted Russian invasion of Ukraine. But markets have been telling us that for some time, and we're still to see significant reductions in GDP growth numbers from the major global economies. These food and fuel prices held a high spot on the overall agenda, and that is where we'll see the effect on growth. Delegates agreeing that as long as the Ukraine conflict continues, there'll be no end in sight to the increases. Of course, climate change was highlighted, as was the ongoing effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. But a few interesting observations came up: the conspicuous absence of Donald Trump, the fact that the after parties were not as well attended as 2020, and that despite Elon Musk's ongoing Twitter saga, Chairman Brett Taylor was in Davos negotiating deals in cloud services, Twitter raging on in the background.
What are we looking like on the markets, Chris, before we let you go?
Jeremy, the week ahead, week ended off well on both global and local markets. Strong retail sales figures and hawkish US Fed Reserve minutes suggesting that a recession is not imminent. Tech stocks in China, including Alibaba and Baidu, also boosting markets. The JSE All Share and the top 40 both up 1.5% on Friday, and US futures looking at keeping the momentum positive. Of course, the oil price hovering around the $120 a barrel is of concern, but the rand looking better, approaching the 15.50 to the dollar. We'll be watching things closely on Tuesday when first quarter employment figures are released by Stats SA. It's unlikely there'll be any improvement in the 35.3% unemployment from the fourth quarter of 2021, closer to 50% if you consider people who have simply given up looking for work.
Hey, listen, I saw a bit of information that I thought may interest you because it interests me. Beer outselling soft drinks.
As they used to say, in the old days, we discussed our problems over beer and cigarettes. Now those are our problems. A Nielsen IQSA report says South Africans prefer beer to soft drinks. It's the top seller among fast moving consumer goods, sales growing 8% over the last 12 months, pushing soft drinks off the top of the table. Cigarettes are the third largest category, sales growing 60% over the last 12 months. But it's smoke and mirrors, really, Jeremy, considering their 2021 figures and all due to the bans during the pandemic a year before. So both beer and cigarettes starting off a pretty low base.
Well, okay, we'll take the smoke and mirrors at this rate. Chris Buchanan, business journalist, thank you very much for stepping into the breach and helping out where Chris Gibbons is away. Always nice to chat with you, mate.
Good to chat to you, Jeremy.
Chris Buchanan there, joining us on a Monday. And as I said, a cold Monday already, and that weather is just gearing up. Winter is upon us. From Game of Thrones, winter is coming. And I think that's more apt. Until tomorrow, where we talk things legal with Advocate Lance Brogden, cheerio from Mansfield Today.